This panel is the intro to embroidery and plushie design. We're going to talk about how to get started. Where are you at? How can you bust into? If you really want to put the money for it and you want to try to break into the world of plushie making and embroidery, we're here to help. The first thing to know is that you're going to spend money. Lots of money. I got an embroidery machine as a gift. It was $300. I'm going to plug them because I believe they're the best breakout embroidery machine that you can find. Is Brother, the SE 400. Yeah, see? Yeah. It is a workhorse. I've had it since Unicon. I've had it since before Unicon, a year and a half ago. It's only now starting to kind of break down, but since then, it has paid its way in multiple times over. This panel is going to be a lot of Q&A. I got started because I saw somebody else do it, and I thought, that's really cool. I think I can do better. And that's how it all starts, is I think I can do better. And we challenge you to do better. Show me what you can do, because that pushes me to do better. And I went to Unicon thinking, cool, maybe a couple people will buy it and I'll get to have some fun. Lo and behold, I went home with nothing but money, and it was fantastic. Now there are situations where you're not going to sell much, and you sit there and sweat and sweat and sweat. But the joy is that you have your product, and you can just continually sell it. You have to also, if you want to be a salesman too, you gotta be able to talk to people. You gotta reach out to somebody just walking by, saying, "Hey, how are you doing today? I like what you're wearing there. Here, let me show you what I got that I can sell you." But that's more sales. That's later on, after you've perfected what you can do. But that's enough about me. Talk to lovely Pam right here.
Okay, my daughter is an artist, and my son is an engineer. He's always making things, and he said, come to a convention. I'll bet Genesee can sell her artwork, and we can sell ponies. And I said, ponies? And he said, well, yeah, ponies. You can sell ponies. And I have traded a duct tape wallet to someone for a pattern. And so I said, well, you make one first, let's see what happens. And being the engineer, he is extremely particular about how things turn out. And he made this pony, and I said, well, how much can you sell this pony for? And he said $95. And I went, no one's going to buy that for $95. It's this big. Yeah. It's just not. The first pony he made was a Dr. Who's, and so we decided to make a derpy, and we decided to do our ponies to have a little something extra, so derpy has a mailbag when we make her. And I said, well, I've been sewing for longer than you. Let's see if I can cut down some of this time, since 10 hours is a long time for $95 in materials, and sort of started from there. At that point, first convention, we brought 5 derpies and 5 doctors and 1 rainbow dash, sold them all. So, and we didn't sell them for $95. I couldn't do it. We sold them for $65.
You could have sold them. You know you could have. Which con was this?
Well, now you know that. Now I know that. We started going with the embroidered eyes, which made them more, if you want to sell your stuff, it's got to be something that looks like what the show has. There's a few exceptions to it, like, with Zecora, I brought Zecora on purpose because Zecora is a pony that, unless you want to hand paint all of her stripes, you're going to do a zebra print kind of stuff. So there's going to be a little bit of artist's license in it and creativity. I love sewing them because each one of them comes out a little different. Same pattern, same fabric, but it's a little organic in that it's, you're putting it together and you got a little ear that squishes a little this way, or you find something really, really cute about the pony. And that's just been sort of the fun for me in constructing them and designing ponies. I mean, just Zecora to me needed a mohawk that was striped. I love this. So that's just, you know, that's part of the fun of designing your own ponies and coming up with your own stuff. We get asked all the time, OCs, do you do OCs? No, we don't. We just don't have time. We're making so many of these that sell that we just don't have time. So if you're in here to figure out how to do an OC, that's good.
That's what we're here for. In terms of the embroidery, now there are, as she said, as Pam said, there's different ways of doing it. I've seen ironed on eyes. I've seen Sharpied on eyes. But nothing compares to having it embroidered directly on. It makes the entire design. Makes it look. If you're planning on just keeping it yourself, you don't have to go full bore. But when it comes to things like eyes or cutie marks, personally, if I don't like it, I won't sell it. If the person will tell me, I like this design, I like it as is, I said, it's fine, it's fine. I said, no, it's not fine. To me, you are putting yourself out there. If you're trying to sell anything, you're putting yourself out there. Now, for example, this particular one, a friend loaned this to me. This is a fantastic, solidly built plushie. The pattern's very well done. And if for anybody that wants to come up here and look at it a little bit, I'll point out some things. But things in terms of the embroidery, I'm very picky. Things like this is what is known as a flat stitch around here. When you look at it from far away, it looks fine. You look at it close, it's too flat. It doesn't have life in it. Put all of yourself in what you make. If you don't know how to do it, ask. Ask how do I do this? And that's how I started. You may know of a embroiderer named E the Pony. He does eyes, he does cutie marks. And when I said, I think I can do better, at first, I didn't think I was doing better until I had people at last year's BronyCon go try to buy from him, and they came back to me and said, I like yours better. I'm not putting his down. He does his way, I do mine my way. I just like trying to embellish everything as much. And honestly, I think I may waste a lot of fabric and thread in that, but I think it's worth it. And he has taught me everything I know. Well, he's taught me a vast majority of what I know, and where you go from what you know into what you don't know is by practice. Nobody learns anything by succeeding. You learn by failure. And anybody that sews can understand when the needle starts bunching and destroying about an hour's worth of work, and then you have to go, and then you go at it again. And that comes from, now, where are you all at? This is definitely going to be an interactive panel. Where are you all at? What do you need? What are you beginning? Are you pre-stages? Are you starting out and want to learn more? Where are you guys at?
I guess I'll start. I am an intermediate plushie maker. I can follow pre-made patterns. I would like to be able to make my own patterns and have them, I know how to make the fabric work, but I'm trying to make it work better. I also know nothing about embroidery and would like to learn, but I do everything by hand. I don't have a machine, so I want to know how to hand embroider and still have it look not crap. Okay,
with hand embroidery, that is out of my realm of experience. I don't know, I
have done that before. It's a little trickier because with the machine you get those nice layers, and there's a sheen to the thread, and you also get that with embroidery. We tried a whole bunch of different eyes. When we first started out, we painted our eyes on with fabric paint. And then we shifted them to doing the little felt eyes that we actually glued onto interfacing. and then glued them onto the pony. I have done a lot of embroidery, but I have not attempted eyes. I just wonder if, and the reason that we had them professionally done is that I liked the end result. It would be something that you would just have to sort of, the best thing to do is to find an eye that you see from, like, on the internet from a pony, and then, you know, print it up and embroider it out and see what you think. How do you plan to attach it to the pony?
Well, that's the other thing. I was gonna try to probably like put interfacing on the backside and just embroider it directly on rather than embroider on something separately and then sew it on later. But I'm open to other suggestions. The reason I was thinking of doing hand embroidery was because I saw someone who made a handmade chrysalis, and the eyes were hand embroidered, and
they're beautiful. Yeah.
Because she had all the different colors in there, and it was freaking gorgeous, and I wanted to figure out how to do that, but I'm really bad at embroidery, so I guess I got to start small and work from there.
That's what I would do. I would print it. I would print something up and just practice. I mean, most of the ponies that we do, we actually have the eye sewn onto the fabric and then work the pattern around it. But I brought these two, and they have to be stitched on after they're embroidered because there's too much thickness to this fabric.
The material to fold
and
under.
Then on discord, the eyes have to actually go over a seam, and that would make it way different. So we actually have to hand stitch those around. You can't really tell because they're stitched on really well. That would be the beauty of doing the hand eyes, is that when you see them, you see the color in the iris and how it shifts and changes. It would end up being a very beautiful one, but you just have to practice.
That's the limitation of machine embroidery that I've found. For me, I only have a single needle machine. I don't have one of those multicolored, multi-needle machines, which I'm working on getting, and wife says no, but we'll see. Yes, it's the sound. It's the sound.
The $500 hammer that you bought it.
$500? Ooh, no. $5,000.
I've seen them. They're about 14.
But if you can get into a embroidery machine for $200 to $300 from Walmart, brother. And
I have a sewing machine. It's a Husqvarna.
Yep.
Got for $400, but it's like the low end. It doesn't have all the embroidery on it, even though I could have gotten one of those if I wanted. But
I would go to get as just for if you have the disposable fun money, grab a brother, the baseline brother embroidery machines. There are a lot of, and now the next step after getting that is, well, how do I make what I want to embroider? Next step is you have to get two things. You can get either go to somebody and have it digitized. Some people will charge you an arm and a leg for it. How much?
$70.
$70 just to digitize the eyes.
Yeah.
I don't charge personally. I think that's a little much, but you get that, and then you can send the fabric to them, or they send you the patch and you sew it on, or you can get a embroidery design suite and just design it yourself. I highly recommend the program Embird, EMBIRD. It is the best intro level embroidery suite that you can do, but still has a large functionality to it. And it's modular. You can continually add more and more on top of it. But you don't have to spend $2,000 up front. There are a lot of programs out there that cost $2,000. And then you take the design that you like, you take a screen grab or a picture, and then you import it, and then essentially you just trace onto it. And it does take practice. And I can go through on how I embroider basic patch eyes if you'd like, but definitely it takes practice and a lot of YouTube watching.
yeah.
Questions about construction of ponies, fabric? I mean, what do you want to know? Okay?
Like, what fabric is a no-no?
It depends on what your end
Stretchy.
result is. Stretchy fabric, well, and I brought these two ponies on purpose. My son loves to stuff his ponies super, super firm, and my daughter, when she stuffs them very, very soft because she wants to cuddle with them. So if you're stuffing soft, then a stretchy fabric isn't bad, but if you're stuffing them firm, it's going to stretch out of shape. The first test ponies that we did, we actually did in fleece. Fleece is a fine fabric for hats and blankets and stuff like that. And I made a giant Sweetie Belle for my 5-year-old at the time, and she loved it and loved it and loved it and loved it and loved it, and it doesn't look like a pony now because the fleece actually will stretch. It does relax. One of the things that we found was we couldn't always find minky in all the colors that we needed. So we've been able to overcome that by looking online.
I have a website I can show you.
Oh, that would be great. Connections are important. There is a place in downtown Houston that we are able to get fabric. We can order from them. That's where we got this Zecora fabric. We've made Fluffle Puff. Fluffle Puff has a real long nap to the fabric.
How did you sew Fluffle Puff? I mean, with all the fluffiness.
With a mask. To be honest, you need a mask. And it doesn't poof at all while you're, once it's made, all the seams are inside. But you cut it, my entire sewing room was under pink fluff. And it was like, I'm breathing Fluffle Puff. I can't stand it. Yeah.
Asbestos.
Yeah. Well, and so it's our softest pony, but it is, and it always sells, but it is a poofy mess. This one is sort of the next poofiest. But minky normally isn't too bad to work with. I prefer minky as a pony fabric.
Does that wear better too, if you're gonna?
I believe it wears better. It's just a heavier fabric. It's got a lot more nap to it.
It does have a grain, like on this one.
Mm-hmm. Just like corduroy does. If you've ever worked with corduroy,
it's
there's
nice
a right and a wrong.
Fluffy.
I see.
So it definitely is and if you go up to a horse, that's pretty much how their fur works. It has a grain to it.
Right.
If you are learning to make a pony, I suggest you make one that's a little larger to begin with.
Yeah.
We actually made the Cutie Mark Crusaders last year, and we made them tiny. And it was so hard to cram the stuffing into the legs and turn them out and stuff, and the clipping and stuff. So if you're learning to make a pony, I would suggest that you make it, about this size or this size here. This size isn't bad to work with. There are some tight corners if you're not used to it, but as far as learning how the pony goes together, it will be a lot easier in a little larger size. I'd recommend going to a fabric store, and a lot of times you can find an end of bolt. So it's like half price as a remnant. Go get a piece of minky, and once you work on your pattern a little bit, which you can do in cotton or anything you want to. I do couture sewing, so I've got tons of muslin around. Work your patterns in muslin first. Then when you feel like your pattern fits together pretty well, then you can go ahead and get that remnant piece of minky. You're going to do some test ponies if you're learning to make them. You just will, just like you will with the embroidery, so that you can eventually make it be what you want it to be. Discord is one where the embroidery stuff is going to be helpful because I have to soft sculpt a lot. I learned how to do Cabbage Patch dolls many years ago.
What's soft sculpting?
Soft sculpting is basically like, you look at this chicken hand on Discord, okay? And it looks sort of like a little chicken hand.
Yeah.
The piece is actually cut out like this. So, and it's significantly larger than this. Once it's sewn and turned inside out, you actually take a needle and thread, you knot it really good, and then you wrap it with the thread and stitch to have it hold his little foot right here. That's a soft sculpt so that he has the little toenail for the lizard. The horn right here is a soft sculpt so he has a unicorn kind of horn. So basically, it is a needle and thread procedure. I'm sure they have it on YouTube, where you're actually going in and taking that very solid piece and shaping it into whatever you want. As soon as you wrap that thread however you want it to do, sewing it in between and tying it off, it stays. It's pretty much where it is. So
what kind of needle? What I know I use personally. I use polyester thread. I highly recommend Marathon. Marathon is you get 5,500 yards for $5, and like $1.50 shipping. And I highly recommend, if you're making patches, I highly recommend, because you use a butane torch and along the edge, polyester melts. It does not burn, so it melts into a nice little clean edge, essentially. But I use polyester. What kind of threads do you use? What's your thread of choice?
I usually use a polyester. I've tried the cotton for the soft sculpting, and when you pull it really tight, it breaks. So you're going to want a polyester thread for sure. Any other questions? Did I answer your question? Good.
If you're looking to get into eye making, the best place to start is go to DeviantArt, look up people who make eyes, and just berate them with questions. We love questions. At least I do. I love talking too much. I'm a little out of my, see, I'd love to, I know my limits. And for me, I have to see how it's made before I attempt to make it. And if you want to break into making things like plushies, now don't do it to these kinds because they're really expensive. But go find like the 4DEs and the other kinds, anything that you're making, and you want, well, how did they do that? Well, go buy it and reverse engineer. Figure out how they did it. Don't copy it, but utilize that knowledge in making something for yourself. Reverse engineer what people do so that you understand, so that you can make it better. Never copy. There was at BronyCon this year, there was a very deep pool, would you say, of people making plushies.
Mm-hmm. Don't worry.
And the problem in that is, if you're going to do this to sell, I'm not discouraging you, but it's going to be tough. You have to have something really special, and at the moment, it's a little the market's a little saturated. So learn what you can from everybody, and then make yours better. That's the key word I can give.
I think you also have to consider how long it's going to take you to do it. So the people who are successful in it generally have found a niche somewhere. Like for Discord, we're trying to make a Discord that it's not going to be the $1,500 Discord. It's going to be one, like this Discord is $150.
What if I see that one? Let's see how cuddly he is. Ooh, he is cuddly.
So we're trying, and we don't make any of the main 6 ponies. We only make side characters because there's tons of people that make the main 6. The pattern that we ended up getting, like I said, I tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. This one, I actually found a teddy bear pattern for the body length and how the arms go together.
I can see that, yeah.
In the bottom. Curved it out so that it would be more snakish looking. My daughter loved Pete's Dragon, and so his head is a little bit like Pete's Dragon, but you're going to find that, you talked about adding the gussets. Well, the thing that gives him shape, because he's got to be wider here. If you look at the side piece, your side piece is going to be more the shape of his head. You're going to give it that big snout here and then cut back in for the jawline. And then, if you've ever sewn, or if you've sewn very much, you know that a gusset piece is actually pretty straight. Well, on a pony, and on all of our ponies, and especially on this one, we designed it so it would actually go more narrow at the eyes. So you could keep that nice broad shape through the front, come in narrower through the eyes and back out for the head. I probably cut out at least 5 heads before I got that shape right.
Wow.
So the first one that we did that we really liked, someone goes, "Oh, you made a chibi, it's so cute." And I mean, he had a giant head, and I just went, okay, we've gone to all the work to sew it, let's just see if we can at least get our materials out of it. It was close enough that someone absolutely loved it with the huge head and bought it. So again, it's, a lot of it's a matter of preference. She is one that we make sure that we bead all of the feet. So when you're making your ponies, if you'll use the polyester beads in the bottom of the feet, it weighs them a little bit so they stand up a little better. Now, this Zecora doesn't stand up quite as good because, again, stuffed very, very soft, and that is just a matter of preference.
And she's looking for the quarter on the ground.
Yeah, she's looking for the quarter on the ground. Where the positioning of the eyes, positioning of the head, all that kind of stuff, a lot of that you can do as you're constructing it. Like, we wanted Discord to look more up. I could have brought his head a little down, a little lower on the neck to have him look down more if we wanted to.
Essentially shorten up the front, on the front there.
Again, just I would start with a regular mane pony, and just the pony person that we got the pattern from said start in cotton, which is what my son did. There's really no give to cotton. If you've worked with cotton, there is give to minky. And then I'm a person that analyzes and shortcuts. And so as soon as I learn how to do it better. Well, like when I turn this ensign out and I'm ready, and the head is the last thing that goes on to the body itself. Like when I'm doing the feet, and you're sewing a flat thing onto a circle. Your circle shape, and then your hooves are like this. They're shaped like this. Sort of the first time you look at a sleeve that goes into a shirt and you go, that's not the shape of my arm, it doesn't work like that. And then you get it on and you realize, well, that upper shape goes onto the shoulder. And of course, if it were the same length here, in my armpit, I'd have no arm. So it has to shape like that. You sort of learn that. So with this, like, I will trim the edges of cut into the little edges around this so that I can lay that in there and work it around in a circle. So I'm not doing necessarily a straight line to a circular line. By nipping those little edges around there, it opens it up so it sews perfectly into a circle, and then it's already trimmed. So when I turn it, it's already got a step that's done. So it's a lot of fun to sew them. There's a lot of hand sewing on them. The more hand sewing there is, of course, the longer it takes. But typically you'll make the pony body, turn it inside out. You'll make the tail, you'll make the mane separate. Those are all go separate and go on stitched by hand. The yarn mane, typically most people don't like a yarn mane that much. They prefer the minky mane. So we decided to do a series of the animal or the apple family for Derby Gone South. And we decided to do the yarn mates because it felt very earthy. And some people really liked them, and some people went, "What did you do to the mane?" So it's going to be a personal preference. And again, just like an artist, if you make something that you like and your fans don't like it, you're not going to sell it. It's got to be something that people are willing to buy if that's the direction you're going.
And that's a shame sometimes. You really love doing something, and it's like you don't want to. It's not that you don't want to waste your time, because all your time is something you're doing something you love. It's just if you're trying to feed yourself, you need to sell.
So, questions? What do you guys want to make? What are you going to be making? One for you, one as a gift. What are you going to make with it? Okay.
I kind of want to start out with denim and have like different colors of denim for each of them.
Oh yeah, like those old. There was a line of toy of bears that were.
I remember
those. Covered in denim, and you can write on them, and then you wash them, and then the writing comes off. Those were pretty cool.
Doodle bears.
Doodle bears.
Doodle bears.
Yeah, I have a few of them at home.
Doodle ponies.
Doodle ponies. That would be fun.
Yeah, not necessarily doodle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to take denim and like bleach them and then dye the color.
Okay.
Match that pony. So I'm just kind of wondering what type of like yarn or string is tough enough for denim.
To sew it?
Yeah.
To sew the denim? I would make sure that I use a denim needle. You can buy a denim needle. There's also leather needles and silk needles and all that kind of stuff. I'd get a denim needle. For the actual construction, I'd go ahead and use the polyester thread. And make sure that you have
Double stitch it.
good stitch. Any top stitching that you're doing, you can actually buy a top stitch thread for denim. That's pretty heavy. And again, the eye on the needle is going to be bigger, so you can top stitch that and it'll look just like denim. Yeah.
Ooh.
It's a real cool touch that I like to do when I'm making jeans, is to get that. It usually comes in gold, but you may be able to find it in some other colors too. But the denim will be a little tricky to work with. Again, if you're a little bigger size, it'll work pretty good. I actually made a baby quilt out of denim, the back of it was fleece, but I embroidered on every square on the denim and then frayed the edges of them. So it was the cutest quilt. It was for a little boy. But I found sewing on the denim for embroidery was great. I didn't have to back it up too much, but it is real heavy. So if you're doing this size on a denim, unless it's a really thin denim, your seams are going to become so thick that it's hard to work with unless you have it be a little bigger.
Yeah, it's going to be like
a little bigger.
Moderate size.
Yeah. Then that would work fine, and you'd probably be really thrilled with the outcome.
One thing I noticed about some plushie makers, and I'm going to try to impart this on you, make sure your stitching's good. I've seen ones where their tails are like falling off. Minky's, would you say Minky's a little unforgiving when it comes to kind of the stresses?
I would say that with Minky, when you're sewing Minky, the thing that I have learned, we sold a Big Mac to this guy who gave free bear hugs and began to throw the pony like a football across the room to his friend, and then started, pulling and stretching on it. And I went, I hope that holds. What I've learned in working with Minky, especially all the hand stitching, it's like when you embroider, you must triple stitch back. A knot, even though you can do the biggest gigantic knot in the whole wide world, it will come through the Minky. So we ended up getting a little note from him going, the head popped off. And I went, well, I go around that thing 3 times when I saw that head on. I know you guys have been pulling on this thing. And so I said, please send it back. We'll fix it. Not a big deal. We guaranteed everything that we do. He goes, no, I found somebody to fix it. But since then, every single time I make a pony, I'll start yanking on the head and tail. You're not going to come off, are you? But what I have learned is that when I was soft sculpting, I learned to do this special knot for soft sculpting. That isn't even big enough. You have to triple back stitch like you would embroidery on something with a big weave in the fabric. And if you'll triple back stitch and then do your stitching, and there's certain stitches that you can do for a tail that will help the tail stay on better. His tail is stitched on by hand. It's a separate piece. Wings are stitched on by hand. Mane is stitched on by hand. Both the horns are stitched on by hand, so there's a lot of hand stitching on a pony, and you don't want it to come off. There's an X stitch that you can do that sort of goes back and forth over the pony. The other thing that my son has found really, really helpful, when you're stitching this stuff on, because the body is firm, if you'll use a curved needle, that will allow you to go right through. If you're doing straight, you're going to poke your finger 100 times. You don't want to bleed on your pony. It's not cool. So if you will get a curved needle, and you can buy them at the fabric store in sets, the curved needle will get into this hard part and allow you to stitch really close to the tail and the head and stuff, and have your stitches, be practically invisible. So curved needle, yeah, save your fingers. Okay, any other questions? It's really a lot of fun. And like I said, the more you make them and the more styles you try, and when you finally get it bingo, you're going to have someone come along and go, you can't sell that, I want it.
Well, sorry, then you got to buy it.
Yeah, okay.
So how big do you have to make the waist fabric with sewing between
This area, I think. Right here, like this area.
Yeah.
It depends on the pony. I mean, you can see that this pony goes in more, and the pattern that we have for this one actually has a center seam that goes all the way through. It has a gusset on the inside part, so you actually, when you sew this, you'll sew the inside legs to the gusset, sew the outside portions together, and then construct them all together. Some people think that you would just sew, like, I'm going to sew all the legs together, and then I'm going to put them on. It doesn't work like that. So it just depends. Now, once you have a pattern that basically works, then you can start tweaking it. Then you can go, okay, well, on our Princess Luna, we make a Princess Luna. Princess Luna's body is pretty much the same size as the other ponies, but her neck and her legs are longer. So you pick a spot in the pattern. You're not going to mess with the feet. You're not going to mess with up here. You're going to make a little spot here, and you're going to add an inch to it. You're going to add maybe 1.5 inches to the neck so that the head is up higher. The best way to find a pattern and enlarge it or shrink it down, scan it into your computer, go to the print page, and if it says 75% or 125%, I have enlarged and shrunk patterns like that, and it's true to the pattern. My son loves to vector everything, so he spends hours vectoring it all. And then he goes, what size do you want this? And I went, I love you, man. And for me, I can't do that, so I scan it in the computer and go, okay, print, please make this. But with him, I go, I want Discord to be this tall, and he'll go, done, you know. And he'll spend a couple hours vectoring the whole thing, and then kicks out all my pattern pieces, and I owe him chocolate chip cookies.
The next thing he's going to do is going to get the automatic. Have you seen these automatic cutters?
Oh no, that would be nice.
It's like the size of it, about this big. You put your fabric in, it just goes. Yeah. That's the next step.
Like I said, dealing with the fabric moves. The fabric, the fabric has movement, and that is what allows you to make the 3D out of a 2D. You start stuffing it. You can stuff things like on this pony right here, you have this. This is a seam here that makes this back hoof like this. But when you're stuffing it, you're also going to want to make sure that you take a little blob of stuffing and make sure you get it right up into that corner. Lots of people, that's a mistake that a lot of people make when they're first starting to do a stuffed animal, is they don't get into the corners, so you miss the detail of what you have stitched together.
Of the pattern, essentially.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Now, I have a question. Unicorn horns. I've seen various ways of doing them. I've seen, like, this person looks like they just wrapped
thread, and that would be a soft sculpt.
I've seen people use, like, a ribbon. What do you use, and what do you recommend?
I recommend using a double strand of the polyester thread, locking it that 3 times at the base of it, and then soft sculpting it up. You're going to wrap it, pull it really, really tight, and then you're going to, just like I do with this one. With this one, because it's not, the unicorn horn has a spiral, if you can see that. It has a spiral, so you can just sort of wrap, and then you anchor it. This one is actually different sections, so I will wrap, I will anchor this, and then I'll put the needle inside. And when you do the soft sculpting, your needle is about that long, so you're going to look for a soft sculpting one. And that'll help you go in between and not have a continuous piece of thread. You can actually get the different sections. So that'll do that.
See, I'm even learning stuff up here.
Anything else?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
Come on up. We're not shy. Come on up. Sit us up front. Come out here.
So when I'm making a pony, like, what's the difference between, like, the seam of it? Like, do you have to make it 1 inch or 1.5 inches?
The seam width?
The seam width, yeah.
Most times when you sew or construct a stuffed animal, they are 1/4 inch seams, and most of the patterns will be 1/4 inch seams. Otherwise, what'll happen is your seam will be too wide and you'll have to clip it all the time. And wherever you have some place that's really tight, you're gonna have to clip anyway. So like in this hand right here, the hand pattern goes like this. In order for you to get that little spot right there, your piece is going to go like this, but then you're going to have to turn it inside out. In order for you to get into that seam, you're going to have to clip it, and you're always going to leave about 1/8 of an inch. So if you start out with 1 to 1.5 inch seams, you're going to be clipping everything all the time. And most patterns for stuffed animals and stuff like this, they're all 1/4 inch seams already. You'll have to read the pattern guide. I would suggest, if you've never made a stuffed animal before, go get a pattern for like a bear, or they even have pony patterns or whatever, and mess with that a little bit first before you start trying to do this. Because once you get sort of familiar with how they are constructed, how they're put together, what's standard on them, it's going to be a lot easier for you to take a pony pattern and make it into something. So 1/4 inch, yeah, for sure.
Do you have a problem with fraying fabric with the loose threads?
It depends on the fabric. With the minky, no. Because they're all inside seams. Technically, if Discord did not have feather eyebrows, I could take him put him inside a pillowcase. I could tie it closed, throw him in the wash, and throw him in the dryer, and he'd come out beautiful. He will take a little bit of time to dry because of his stuffing, but like Sakura, that wouldn't be so easy. She's got the little bands on. So if you want to make something that's washable, you're going to have to consider what other things. As far as the eyes and stuff like that, the eyes, they're on. I mean, everything else is on. So
Iron-on is not the recommended. I cannot stress that enough. Iron-on does not stay. It will eventually fall off. Always stitch if you can.
These are always, these are all stitched. If you are embroidering the eyes on, we made a cloud chaser this year. Really super cute pony. But the nap on the fabric was a little thick, so we had all these little, even though they were embroidered by the same lady that does all the other stuff, you could see the fabric poking through her eyes, little tiny fuzz. On the dark parts, not on the light parts, because of course it was lighter. So she goes, just take a Sharpie on the black parts. And so
it's not cheating if nobody knows.
It's not cheating. It just depends on, and you're welcome to hold these. You can see that this is quite a bit longer, but it's super soft.
Oh my goodness.
And the longer that fiber is, the softer your pony is going to be.
And the more difficult, the more likely you're going to bind up your machine.
And so...
do the rings as well? Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Where'd you get the rings?
I am actually, I have my own business. It's floral business, and I bought those and sprayed them.
Oh, nice.
So
always.
lots of connections.
Exactly.
But you can see that that's quite a bit longer, so when you're trying to embroidery over the top of that, it's going to pop through. This stuff is great because it's a little smaller and you're not going to have that problem. Any other questions?
I think next time I'm going to bring patterns for people to play with and bring some extra fabric, and people can just sit there and sew if they want.
So what are you going to make?
Well, I've already, I have a pattern I bought on Etsy for making ponies, and I've made a couple, and I just can't get the head right. So I'm trying to figure out
What part of the head are you having a hard time with?
mainly getting the muzzle to actually stick out, because the one I made is, no matter how much stuffing I stuffed in there, it didn't stay. Mm-hmm. And it was, so I keep messing with the pattern, and I'm going to try the thing where with the eyes changing the width of the gusset, because right now it's all straight until you get to the nose where it comes in, so I'll probably mess with that when I get home. But I also want to make the difference between like the stiff ponies that stand up on their own and like Sakura, which is more of a beanie floppy.
Yeah.
Because I like the beanie floppy.
Yep.
Well, and it's a preference. Now, the other thing that we have found in making ponies is stuffing matters. There are a couple of different kinds of stuffings that you can use. There's one that, and this is the soft stuff, so when you hold it, you just squeeze it, and yes, I'm gonna love this thing to death. And then there's another stuffing that it says on the box for stuffing firm. And you will just keep cramming stuffing in there until it feels like a piece of wood covered with fabric. But it will totally keep its shape, and it'll be totally show accurate. When I stuffed Discord the first time, because I knew he had to stand up, I used the firm stuffing in the bottom because it was heavier, and I used the lighter stuffing on the head so it would be softer and squishy. So you can use a combination of both of them. I was not aware that there was more than one kind of stuffing. There is a very firm...
Yeah, stuffing with and without nuts.
Yeah, exactly. So absolutely. So I would look for the stuffing, and then my son, when he does it, he'll actually roll them into the shape that he wants it to be. So for that nose, is it a round nose, or is it a squared off nose?
It's...
Boy or girl?
Girls. They're kind of... It's supposed to look like this one, right? But her nose is always kind of punched in like this because I can't get the stuffing to stay in the face, no matter how much, because it all meanders back into the head. The head's so huge opposed to the muzzle. I can't get it to fill out the muzzle and stay.
So you're actually going to stuff the head separately from the body, because you close off the neck on the body, the body before you do that.
I normally when I made like bears and stuff, I would sew the head on and then stuff the whole thing together. With the ponies, the neck is so narrow, I can't do that. So I stuff the body and then put the head on separately.
So when you do it, I would take all the stuffing out of the head first, and then I would stuff this nose into the exact shape that you want to, and then build out from there. You'll get a way better result. If you're trying to stuff in here, then all it does is move. It moves every single time. So what you'll want to do is you'll stuff this section right here first and make it exactly the way you want it, and squeeze the stuffing so that it forms the way you want it to.
I stuffed it and then did a little needle sculpting, like putting the face on to keep it in place.
Well, you could if you wanted to, but we haven't had anything really move once we stuff it in there. And it's this little area here is pretty small, so you can't take a big blob of stuffing and stuff it in there, because what will happen is it just comes right back out. So what you're going to want to do is just take a little bit of stuffing, stuff it in there a little bit more, and then shape it. And you can shape the foam, the polyester stuffing. My daughter, whenever we get them out of the suitcases, whenever we travel, she's always grabbing the nose of the ponies and going, "This is how I like it." And you can still manipulate it a little bit with that, but I would start with the nose and then put in the bigger blobs behind it, because the bigger blobs will hold that little bit of stuffing in that place.
Okay.
That'll work. I mean, you could run a thread behind it to sort of hold it in place, but I don't think you would need to if you start with the little bit here and then use the bigger pieces behind it. That should hold it in place. So when it end up being, I would try it. That's what we do. Stuffing the unicorns at first, I got really, really frustrated, because you have to have stuffing all the way to the end of the point. And I'm the kind of person who, I just cram it in there. My husband's very patient and puts things in.
I've done like really, really small things, so I'm used to like just taking bits of fluff and a chopstick.
And that's exactly what you need to do with that point. And I had to learn that. It's like, I can do this. But it made a huge difference if I wasn't trying to make it too big.
Bought hemostats that I could turn those really tiny pieces.
Oh yeah.
Keep cramming.
Yeah, so, I would start, if you would start with the nose with the little pieces and then build to the bigger pieces, that'll hold those in place as you, because the head is stuffed pretty firm so that it keeps the right shape.
Yeah, I swear I can use half a bag of stuffing on just the head sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I had no idea. We started buying boxes, 10-pound boxes of stuffing, and this year we've gone through
bags, and one of those usually, because most of my stuffed animals are like tiny things, but when I make the ponies, it's like I use a whole entire bag.
And it just is,
And you just use what you need. I've learned that, okay, this box will do 4 ponies. Okay, I got that 50% off. Good for me.
Well, always find the deals. Always hit up Joann Fabrics because they love their sales. Like I just got a text, Joann, 60% off one regularly priced item. Valid Friday, Tuesday.
Yeah, Veterans Day week.
So what did you come here to learn?
Well, I've just started. I mean, I just bought a machine, and I was trying to make it a little bit larger, but the problem is the brother, the SC400,
Can only go 4x4.
4x4, and that restricts the size of the eye, which restricts the size of the rest of it. So I don't know. I was debating like
The next step up is the Brother PE770. That one's $600. It'll give you a 5x7 eye, which if you need something bigger than that, that's a big horse.
Yeah. I've been
Life-size pony.
That is a life-size pony. That, they've calculated it out. The show ponies would be, I think, the alicorns would be, the tip of the horn would be 5 feet. The rest of them would be like about
Like
4
a
feet.
body pillow.
No, we do not talk about those things here.
My boyfriend bought one of those. It's like 4 feet. It takes up. It's like just as big as that.
The podium, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, are you crazy? You barely have enough room in your room anyhow.
Must
I'm
love
like,
ponies.
I'm like, but now I want one.
But now you want one.
Yeah.
They're just the right size and shape. So other than the eye issue of it being too big, you're good?
You want to make a bigger one.
My other issue is that I've just been working really hard at work, and I haven't had time.
Do you have any questions about embroidery itself? Like designing anything? No?
No, actually, right now, I found like patterns online, but also there's a free embroidery program called Sophie Sew.
Yep.
And
I know of it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, you have to constantly save because no one knew about them.
I tried it. I'm like, I make far too many mistakes for that. So yeah, that's why. And I got mine, and I cannot sing its praises any louder. I mean, it's a great intro program, and I will not. I'll continually use it forever now because all the other programs are like $3,000, and it's like.
That's
Do
a
what
lot
you
of
want because a
ponies.
pirate is free. You are a pirate.
Okay, did you guys have any other
No?
thoughts? I mean, you're welcome to come up and
Come
feel the ponies
take.
and-
There's just 4 of us. Come pet. You can
Come see the ponies
I
and
can point out
see
things that bother me. Things like on the eye here.